Sweet! All right, everybody, welcome to the Paddy and the Yank podcast. But today, unfortunately, you only have the Yank, baby. So I guess we would call this the Yank Tank. Paddy's not here. He he found the woman that's been hunting giraffes, and he is currently on a giraffe hunter hunt. So we must pray that he does not become the hunted. All right, today we have very special guests from a bluegrass band from Appalachia, Jonathan Pennington and Dewey Smith, and we're going to jump right in this shit and bring him on the podcast. So, gentlemen, welcome to the Paddy and the Yank podcast. We got your video. Beautiful. All right. How we doing?
Hey, look, we are doing excellent. Are we not, Dewey?
We are. We just
so fucking excellent.
we just got done doing a show in Georgetown, Kentucky. So we're
Festival of the Horse.
yeah.
Festival of the
It was
Horse.
a celebration of horses.
Really?
So,
That's fantastic.
The
I just rode a horse for the first time, and it was
Really?
yeah, but it was pretty anticlimactic because in Taiwan they're very, very, very concerned about safety. So there was a girl next to my horse, kind of guiding my horse the whole time. I'm like, man, I want to fucking ride this thing, and she wouldn't let me go. She wouldn't let me go crazy, but then she did get me going a little fast, and I can't believe how much you bump up and down. It'd be so easy to fall off, man.
right.
Yeah, you got once you kind of start getting to ride, you kind of learn the horse's rhythm.
Yeah,
You'll go with it. And it's not near as bad.
learn how to bump with the horse, huh?
Yeah, you got to learn to bump with the horse.
Sounds like a good hip hop song.
We are from Appalachia, but not that deep south.
But
I got
They're deep.
I got to say the last thing I expected to see this bluegrass band playing would be a Black Lives Matter shirt.
Yeah, we're not your typical. We're not your grandmother's bluegrass band.
No, it's not it.
Well, that was what drew me in. Paddy said we got a song called Heroin from the bluegrass band, and then he had me read your description, and I was like, whoa, these guys clearly have something to say, and I want to hear what it is.
We do. It's this band. I put it together like summer last year, and had a different guy playing. It was just me and a dobro. So the song that you put out was actually recorded live on this little bridge in Sandy Hook, and it was just me and my guitar and him and what's called a dobro, which is kind of like a resonator guitar that you play with a slide. And
That's the
that
guitar
guy
that you lay the guitar down flat and then play it.
Yep, play like a slide over it. He things didn't work out so well with the other guy, and so he quit and ended up. Dewey, I get three for the price of one. So he plays mandolin, banjo, and dobro. So okay.
Nice, that's what's up.
We have a fiddle player, and we also have a bass player, and they couldn't be here today, but we just we just got with the show, and they had to head on home. So
That's awesome. You're playing another show tonight, or you're going to a concert?
I'm going to a concert. Tyler Childers. He's.
I love Tyler Childers. I was just recommending him to somebody yesterday. He is awesome.
Yeah, Tyler's doing a show in just like about 30 miles from us or so. Something
Next
like
county over.
for free, and so it's like there's gonna be like 15,000 people.
Free
there,
show. Damn.
Yeah.
That's awesome. He is fire, man. He's got some really good songs, really good lyrics.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, let's jump back to that. Oh, unless you got something to say, go ahead.
I just wanted to say about that, like that's the shit that's really happening in Appalachia, the music that's coming out of here. But you guys, the bigger world doesn't always get to see that because Nashville has kind of control over what they put out, and it's just the same pop bullshit over and over and over again. And the Tylers and the Sturgill Simpsons are kind of slowly kind of coming up.
Yeah, they're kind of pushing that envelope that should have been pushed. That initially got pushed in the 80s by, like the Merle Haggards and people like that outlaw type country.
really.
And it kind of got really through the 90s and stuff. It just got squashed so much, and through the 2000s, and now they're really starting to make a push. You got people
I
like
heard Georgia Florida line literally just broke up. Thank the Lord. There you go.
Yeah.
So maybe we're heading the right direction. Anyway.
Hell yeah. Well, let's go ahead and go back to this song Heroin that you sent me because number one, I loved it, and number two, I grew up in Ohio, and we had a terrible opiate epidemic that just wiped through, and I think, God, this this was like 2008. 2004, there was a lot of opiates around, but I want to say 2007, 2008, it just blew up with the pill mills in Florida, which I heard you say before. And recently we did a podcast on the Sackler family, which you said you were also familiar with. And I'm pretty curious to hear about how that hit where you grew up and how that affected your life.
I'll speak first, and then Dewey has firsthand experience. He can give you a little bit more. But for me, I literally moved about 2003. I moved out of Eastern Kentucky. I met my wife on a chat room back when those were the thing. With all places. Yeah, for real. I was one of the stories that actually
Internet
worked out. Years later, it actually worked out.
Oh, that's cool.
So
that's cool.
We're still together, and 5 years later. But I missed like before that period of time. I mean, we smoked pot and drank and things like that in high school. Kids, you shouldn't be doing that in high school, but we did.
Yeah.
That was the worst thing that we had, that came about. And then and then I moved away. And then the next thing I know, pills they were everywhere.
So you didn't move away to get away from that. You just moved away because you were starting your life, living your life.
It just happened, it just happened that way. So I mean, I really thank God for it, because a lot of our friends did make it, and we'll get into more of that in a minute. But I'll let you kind of.
That's
So yeah, and go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, I have a pretty similar story. That's actually why I came to Taiwan. It ravaged my friends. It ravaged me. I was fully addicted. I took Ibogaine to get off of it, and I did everything in my power. And in the end, what I had to do was flee the country. I feel like I just got to be gone, man. I just got to be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dewey has specifically a similar situation. You were.
Yeah. So kind of started in the early 2000s. I went through a really, really, really bad divorce, and just things like that just get on you. And it was the perfect checkout.
Right.
So I started just dabbling a little bit with it, just partying with friends, stuff like that. And then I seen that there was some money that could be made. So I started doing a little bit of pushing, and then before I knowed it, I was well addicted. I was sending as many as 5 people to Florida at a time.
Which at that time you get a flight to Florida from like Kentucky for $50. Like you could fly. Was it like $50?
Yeah, we called it the Oxycontin Express.
Yeah.
And
I had a buddy that did the same thing. He'd take 5 to 6 people. They'd fly down for the day and then fly back to Ohio.
Yep. So that's basically what was doing. I would be called what we called a sponsor. And,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So I would get a cut. I would get a cut of everything that they brought back. Then I would sling that and stick that up my nose. And then I was introduced to banging. And for the people who don't know what banging is, that's when you melt the pill down into a spoon and you shoot it like heroin. And in that part of my addiction, I got so bad I could have dope in my pocket and I'd be sick until I could find a needle. That's how deep I got. And it was, I'd remarried. I was losing my family, lost vehicles. It was destroying me. So I went, I got on Suboxone. I did really well with that, but same thing. Everybody you're around, they're, hey, come on, man, blah, blah, blah. Kind of got led back into it. That happened a couple times. And finally, I just thought, what the hell, what am I doing? My wife's in jail at this point. She's in active addiction with me. I'm just thinking, my God. So there's a implant that they can put in you. It's a naltrexone implant. It's a little pebble. It goes under the skin. I said, I probably can't do this with all the people that are around me. So what I'll do is I'll go get that, and it's an opioid blocker. You can't get high. You could do 1,000 pills. You won't get. You'll die.
So it's like Suboxone.
It's not. there's no opioid in this. It's actually it's the same med that they use it to make Narcan. It's kind of got the same chemical
It's called
makeup,
naloxone.
and literally it's an opioid blocker. So like you could just be trying to get high, you won't feel the high, but you can still overdose.
Isn't that how?
Because
Isn't that how? In the end, I used Suboxone to get off too. It was the best tool ever, 100 times better than methadone. But isn't the deal with Suboxone is if you take it and then you go out and try to do some oxys, you won't feel it because of the opiate blocker?
Yes, it has a drug in it called buprenorphine that's
Yeah.
not affected by naloxone, like regular opioids are, and it's a great drug. The problem with that I'm seeing today around here is we basically created Suboxone pill mills.
Yeah, because what they'll do is they'll take that, they'll cut those slivers, and then they'll melt that down, and then they can get high off that. So it becomes like an easier way for them to use. They can get high off the Suboxone because you can get. I mean, I know some people that would tell me whenever I used to run a treatment facility for the DOC in Kentucky in Sandy Hook, where we live, and they would. I had guys that would tell me that they preferred the Suboxone high over like
That's
heroin.
crazy. I've gotten loaded on Suboxone before, but in the end, it was the best tool, and that's what I used to wean myself down. I think I had the Narcan before because I overdosed twice, and both times I woke up with an IV in my arm, and I'm pretty sure that was probably Narcan, right? That they were putting into me to like bring me to,
absolutely.
And it throws you into immediate withdrawal. Oh, just a shooting migraine. It's terrible.
And people come out fighting. You have to watch when you like if you see somebody that's on the side of the road and and they're out and you give them some Narcan, they'll typically come out fighting.
Really?
Because they've never been so sick in all their life.
Yeah. I came out. When I came out, they're like, "You're going to jail, son." I'm like, "Shit, what's going on, man? Like, you got a bench warrant out for your arrest." I'm like, "Oh shit, I didn't even know."
Thanks for the info, Doug.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I went and got that, and those will last about 2 months under the skin. I got that
insane.
done twice.
I've never heard of that. It's a Narcan implant.
It's called a naloxone implant.
Yeah, it's not Narcan. It's
in the same family.
They use that med to make Narcan, but it's or vice versa. It has the same chemical properties, but not exactly the same.
So does it take care of withdrawal?
No, absolutely not.
Oh, so you'll still be in withdrawal.
Yeah, you're going to withdraw like a motherfucker.
So, because Suboxone will take the withdrawal away, but this will not take the withdrawal away.
You're still getting that opioid,
but you still have that. You're still feeding your addiction.
Gotcha.
You're screwed
basically, but you just can't. Yeah. It's like forced cold turkey, basically.
Yeah. So you could, like I said, you could do pills on top of it, and it won't knock your withdrawal at all. So I done that. I was sick for almost a month. That was, I talked to a lot of people, and they're like, "Wow, that's a long time." I withdraw for almost a month, but I'd been high for probably 4 or 5 years straight. Hadn't had a sober day.
Yeah.
Not one sober day.
Yeah. Makes sense.
It's crazy. So I got cleaned up. That was in 2010. And, it takes a couple years to kind of get your head straight.
It does.
It really does. So a lot of people will think, well, I'm okay. I'm good. I could go back. I could bump again.
Yeah.
Trust me, I tried that stuff too, and that didn't work. So I walked away and never looked back. Luckily, I think of all those times, I've had 2 small relapses. That was just a one-time super stress, and I know my coping mechanisms, and I didn't go to them, and I seen my mistakes, and I was able to quickly get back on the horse. But it's been a ride.
One thing I wanted to say real quick too about the song Heroin when we started talking about this was that the song Heroin essentially is about that period of time after pills came in. Like when I was a kid, you didn't see heroin was something that happened in the city. Like I grew up in the 90s with the grunge, with Kurt Cobain. I remember like when I first got into music, like Kurt Cobain had just committed suicide. That was when I first got into music. I bought Nevermind was my first album.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we all knew about heroin, but it was like something people did in the cities.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I moved play in that 2003. That's when pills came, and then all of a sudden, after the pills crisis, then heroin is everywhere, and it's dirt cheap, and it's something that you never saw ever before. We happen to be in Afghanistan, right before that, and then all of a sudden, heroin is just really, really cheap and everywhere, and that's what that song's about.
And the thing about the heroin was when they shut the pill mills down, they got all that. I don't think law enforcement know or understood how bad the addiction was, other than the crime and stuff like that. But they were going to feed their habits one way or the other. And I actually knew some drug dealers that said they were just waiting on this day. They had plenty of stock. They had connections. They said,
You mean
going down.
Oh, you mean they're waiting on the day for the police to shut down the pill mills in Florida? Yeah.
Well,
that way they pushed start pumping heroin into this area, and they did.
I mean, do you think that was kind of what the government wanted? This makes me think about the Sackler family again, you know, and how it all seemed controlled, manipulated, and intentional to an extent.
Well, here's the thing. The Sacklers were so deep into the pockets of the politicians.
And hold on one second.
Like
I'm sorry. Just in case listeners didn't hear that podcast, the Sackler family, and I don't remember the exact years, but they were the family that created OxyContin and started pushing OxyContin and just wanted to take over the world with it. Am I right?
Basically, yeah. And they lied. Matter of fact, I just talked to a gentleman who is a pharmacist, and he said those Sackler reps would come in there. They would be beautiful. He said they look like models.
Wow.
Would come in and bring them all kinds of samples, take them to the nicest restaurants in the area, spend just crazy amounts of money for them to push that stuff.
There's a TV show that just came out recently about it with Michael Keaton. Did you guys see that? That was a good show.
I watched part of it.
Phenomenal.
I cried, man, when the cop comes to the mom's house.
But the thing is, I know those people. We've all had people in our lives. Jonathan and me was talking the other day, and half the people that we knew are gone.
Yeah.
We're 40 years old.
Yeah.
And I know more people that are dead than are alive. That I grew up with.
I just wrote a book about my life because pretty much all of my closest friends are now dead. You know, pretty much all of them. And most of them died before I came to Taiwan. But even since I've been in Taiwan, I think 3 or 4 more people have died. And it's gotten down to the point where, like, man, I miss Jeff, but I can't even call anybody else that knew Jeff because they're all dead too. And so, like, all I can do is kind of, like, talk to them alone, which I've learned how to do over the years.
Sure.
Yeah. And we've started to see now with the crackdown on heroin, now meth is meth has become king.
Meth has began to get a boost since the heroin they've cracked down on the opiates. Now it's becoming heroin or meth that's become kind of started to take over again.
Yeah.
So back to the government thing, you guys said, what do you think about the government? 100% the government. The reason why drugs are still illegal is because of the government, because there's money to be made on the backs of the slaves. Yeah, that's the lyric. Money to be made on the backs of the slaves. Same old song, just a different time. And they're going to find somebody to be that in that spot. And right now it's all of us when it comes to that, the drug trade.
I don't advocate drug use, but legalizing all drugs would probably be the smartest thing that we could possibly do. That we could do away with the 100%. Overcrowding of prisons. We're getting ready to, in the county we live in, they're getting ready to double the size of the prison.
Yeah,
that's there.
That was where I used to work. I just want to jump into this. I was the director of that program.
What program?
I quit. The SAT. They call it the SAT program, which is a substance abuse program. And essentially, what we do is we do substance abuse therapy in the prison system. So inmates that come in, they can take this program. This I think it's a 90-day program, and then they would get so much time off of their sentencing if they did that. So if you were caught either trafficking or using, and that was part of your reason for being in the prison, you could take that and get some time off your sentencing.
So if they were in the prison, would they give them like Suboxone or methadone if they were really addicted?
Yeah. Recently, they began right before I quit. They began to not all the prisons in Kentucky were doing it, but a couple of them they were. Right now, they may have all opened it up, But right when I left, it was just like I think just one prison was beginning on the way out. If it was their time to get finally released from prison, they would begin giving them Suboxone on the way out, right before they get ready to leave, and then they would.
Oh, but not while they're in prison when they're getting ready to get released.
Right, they wouldn't let them have it while they were in it. It was like during the end of their time. Whenever I was in it, I was teaching the naloxone treatment that the Dewey's talking about, and that's what I really tried to push. And my only issue with the way that they did this boxing with it, these guys were supposed to be off drugs because they were in prison. So that's what was supposed to be happening. Like they're drug free. They took the SAT program, but then we're giving them Suboxone on the way out the door. So obviously that wasn't the case. I mean, there's so much money to be made in this stuff, and you can't tell me that the reason why we still have all these guys would go to prison for years for drug charges, and I would see pedophiles getting out, for less than that, so much less than that. 2 or 3 years and they're out.
You can't justify to me that some chomo can get out before somebody who was slinging some crack.
And these young men that I would work with, so many times I would think, like, I get to know these guys, and I would think when they go back home, a lot of them were in places that were impoverished, places that, I mean, even if they did get a job at their skill level, they're looking at McDonald's, and a lot of times they would have anger issues they couldn't even hold down a job at McDonald's if they wanted to. So what are their options? They can get released and go try to make fast food work, or gas station work or whatever, or they can go on the street and make a lot of money selling drugs. What would anybody do?
Well, that's why I don't want to go back home. I'm afraid if I go back home, I'll be like, oh man, I'm not making enough money teaching. I'm just going to go back to slinging, I can't handle being broke. And then if I go back to slinging, I'm going to go back to doing, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
The prison system's there. Is it for rehabilitation or is it for correction?
Dude, it's for making you a better criminal, really. So I mean, sometimes, not always, but I think a lot of people come out worse than they were when they went in.
I'm telling you, I ran a program. I'm telling you, it mainly that's what a lot of guys learned. There's a handful that didn't, but I mean the percentages are almost 10% that did and 90% that learned to be better at not getting caught, learn to be better at doing, getting connected, all those things.
Because they're professionals, right?
It's sad. And again, like I said, I'm not advocating anybody to do drugs, but we've got to do something. Our prisons are getting full. Like I said, they're getting ready to double the size of the prison. It's going to be the largest prison in the state of Kentucky now. Once it gets doubled in size.
In our town, in our hometown.
In our hometown.
Which is Sandy Hook?
Yes. And a beautiful little county and a beautiful little town. And the prison's actually really nice looking. It doesn't look like one of those old dungeons.
Look nice.
It is a very yeah, it really is.
Brag to all your friends, guys.
If I'm getting locked up, I want to go to Sandy Hook.
Yeah, place to go.
But it's getting doubled, and so what are we doing?
Yeah.
Who are we rehabilitating? What is the recidivism rates? Let's see those numbers, and we'll find out.
Have you heard about the test with the rats?
No.
And giving. Okay, I used to teach this all the time to the guys, and okay, so I can't remember what country it is, but there's another country, I think in Europe someplace, that did this study, and they essentially took some mice and they put them in different sorts of confinements. And in one confinement, they could just basically give them an IV, not IV, but like a little drip of heroin. Yeah, and they had nothing else. They just kind of alone mainly, and they could take the water, the heroin, and those rats preferred the heroin.
Yeah.
But then they also took rats and they put them in this other containment where they had all the rats they could, all the sex they ever wanted, all they had all these different wheels and all these different mazes and all this stuff that they could do and be involved in. And they also had heroin and they also had water. And those rats didn't necessarily care too much. I mean, they would occasionally use the heroin, but they wouldn't use it till they died like the rats that had nothing else.
Yeah.
And what's happened in our country is that we are being treated like the rats that are locked up in the cage and don't have
Are we being
any opportunity.
are we being treated like rats like that, or are we living like rats like that, like isolated and depressed? You know, because
Oh,
really, yeah,
Right.
really, from that analogy, what I hear is like one group of rats they felt like a sense of family. They had a social support
Right.
system. They were active, and the other rat is like isolated, alone, and depressed. And it's like, yeah, it just makes sense, you know.
I don't think that if the things that happened in my life would have happened, I would have probably wound up on drugs. I really don't. But it was the depression and the pressure of just having to live with the pain that I was going through. I needed something to check out.
Yeah,
And if I'd had a support system of some nature to get me through those things, I think that I would have probably been okay. But I
yeah,
didn't have it, and we don't have it, and we've still not fixed that problem.
And on
yeah,
top of the, I mean, I'm not going to touch the poverty issue too. In Eastern Kentucky, it is insane um, how great the level of poverty is. I mean, even like I have an education. Dewey has an education. Dewey's able to get a good job and does really well, and I do pretty good for myself. But there's a lot of individuals that didn't have the ability to do the education, and so even if they want to make things better, they can't. They're in our town. There is not even a red light. We have a McDonald's. We have like 3 gas stations and $2. My son back there laughing. He's actually $2 general stores. And
I don't think
it.
I don't think some of our listeners even know what a Dollar General is. That
Well, come to the South, you'll find one about every 15 minutes. There'll be a Dollar
it's
General.
it's basically a dollar store where everything's a dollar.
No. That's $1.03. This is like a super convenience store.
It's like a tiny Walmart. So they cram everything into this like the old 5 and dime sort of idea, but it's not cheaper. It's the same price as you would get any place else. It's just they're in the middle of nowhere. So Dollar General basically took over the places that Walmart wasn't going after. Walmart has to have a certain number of people per square area in order for them to put a Walmart. We are literally 45 minutes away from a Walmart. That's
Thank
how
God.
far in the middle of nowhere we are.
Because your population is too small.
Yeah.
I got to be
So
honest,
Dollar
dude.
General,
You want to know one of the things I miss the most from America? Walmart. I miss Walmart.
I've never missed Walmart. I'm not a fan of Walmart. General guy through and through.
I would love that I have to drive 3 to Walmart.
You won't have that problem.
You can't get everything at Dollar General.
I do. I can make do. I can make do.
Oh man.
To be honest with you, I wouldn't change a thing about our county. It's small. Everybody knows everybody.
He's a politician, can you tell?
He's running for mayor.
He's a magistrate. He's a magistrate in our county. So what are the?
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
We don't have our county as far as size wise. Here's one thing about Kentucky. Kentucky is 25th in population in the United States, but it is 3rd in the amount of counties it has. Only 2 other states have more counties: Texas, and I think it's Georgia or Alabama.
Oh, interesting.
We have 120 counties.
Holy moly!
So like Ohio has like 50.
Wow.
So our county is very, very small.
And Kentucky's not much bigger than Ohio, is it? I don't know which state is bigger.
Area wise, not so much. Now, population wise, Ohio's quite, because you have Cleveland,
Right,
Toledo,
Columbus and Cincinnati.
Dayton.
Right.
We have Louisville, Lexington, Paducah, Bowling Green.
And those aren't huge.
Yeah,
Louisville is.
We have a Bowling Green too. That's where I went to college, university.
Yeah, Bowling Green College. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place. Great place.
So we don't have. When we say that, we kind of say it tongue in cheek, but if you really think about it, as far as size, our county area wise is very, very small. As opposed to like a lot of the counties in Ohio that will have 2, 3, 4 towns and maybe a city in it. We have one small town.
We have a high school for the entire county.
Yeah, that's how small.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, I miss that as well. I'm in an extremely overcrowded metropolis in Taipei. The population of Taipei, where I live, is 2.6 million people.
Oh wow!
So I see hundreds of people every day. Oh, it's been very hard to get used to. And when you see that many people on a daily basis, you stop valuing them because you're just seeing so many. So you don't talk, you don't stop and talk because there's just so many people passing by constantly. And
Well, that's a good thing about here. You know, you walk down the street, you're gonna see somebody. You know, you walk into a gas station or whatever, you're going to probably see 2 or 3 different people. You know, and the people that don't, you're probably gonna know them.
And we're just talking about the rat situation, right? And like feeling, and you're saying the town is so small that you know everybody. You need that sense of belonging. You need that sense of community because without it's not natural, right? We're social creatures. We need to be around people. We need to know people. And if we don't, we get depressed. And we get depressed, we make bad decisions.
And even though we do know a lot of the families because that we grew up with, it's still disconnected. People, I wouldn't say that they were connected like they were 20 years ago before I moved away. It's different. And we have a lot of people because of the drug trade that have moved into our county that have literally no connection with Sandy Hook, but all of a sudden we got all these new people that just appear. They're like, why did you move here? We're just looking around. We found this place 4 minutes away from everything else. Sure.
My buddy, my cousin just cruised his Harley down to Kentucky actually last week, and he pulls into some motel off the road, and the lady at the front desk says, "I know a lot about pills." And he called me and told me that, and he went to his room, and I'm like, that is a really weird welcoming to Kentucky.
Wow. That sounds like back home. I was gonna say it.
Yeah.
Wow. I know a lot about this.
But Jonathan, before we started this podcast today, you told me some really cool stuff about the history of Kentucky and that area and what kind of caused the opioid epidemic to start. Something about tobacco farmers and kind of the history of that and how it played into the whole problem.
So growing up, I mentioned now that there's really not a lot if you don't have an education or don't have a connect. There are some oil refineries that are fairly close to us, and if your parents were involved in those oil refineries, you could still get a pretty decent paying job, but that was only for certain people that had families that were connected. So everybody else, there's nothing. Before that, though, we used to have tobacco. We have a festival every year called the Tobacco Festival that we still celebrate. For like 2 years, they changed it to the Heritage Fest to try to be, tobacco was bad. And it was
let me interrupt real quick. I'm sorry. Have you heard of the tobacco they use as a psychedelic where they like snort it?
I have not.
A lot of people that do ayahuasca and stuff, they also do this thing with tobacco. I can't remember if it's like the shaman blows the smoke up your nose or you actually snort a snuff and then you get like high from snorting this tobacco.
I could see you just getting violently ill.
Yeah, you get that first nicotine buzz. How sick you get.
I think they compare it to like a DMT type buzz.
Wow.
No, I've not heard of that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There's a new special. There's a series on Netflix about psychedelics, and like the first episode, this older dude's talking about, my first introduction to psychedelics was snuff, and like it's like snorting the smoke or snort. I think they called it snuff, but like they were either snorting the tobacco.
It's basically these little cans of tobacco that's ground up really fine.
It's not that. I know about that. It's not chew, but I don't know, some crazies. I've never tried it, but like when I did the ayahuasca ceremonies, a lot of times the shaman is always smoking tobacco and blowing it in your face, and getting you in the. It's crazy. Some people really use it. The Navajo people as well. They use it for like meditation purposes. You're sitting at the fire. And everybody like as you're hitting the cigarette, I guess the rolled mountain tobacco cigarette, you're supposed to be like doing a prayer or a meditation, and that's how I quit smoking cigarettes was by seeing that. Oh man, some people use tobacco ceremonially, not just for just to abuse your body.
That's interesting.
That is completely new, and I've grown up. My entire family were tobacco farmers.
Yeah. Because that's what I was going to say. So Tobacco Fest, we have that every year. Like I said, for 2 years, it went to the Heritage Fest to try to, and that no one liked that, so I went back to Tobacco Fest. But
it's who we are.
It's who we are.
I had a Heritage Festival too. I loved it. It was all about Native Americans. Is that what yours was too?
No, they just didn't want to say tobacco anymore because they didn't want to think that
it was a politically correct.
It was a PC thing. It was like. Can't talk about tobacco because it's bad because it promotes tobacco, but that's not what it's promoting at all. It's promoting the families that had income, they could raise tobacco. They could sell tobacco. My grandfather was that he pretty much that was his income, was being a tobacco
There was a
farmer.
lot of people. That's how they made their living.
So then fast forward, the government came in and they put all these regulations on how
Hold
many
on.
plants.
I'm sorry. I have a question. So slaves, when slaves were brought over, were slaves also working on tobacco farms as well?
Yes, actually they were. They would be in. So tobacco primarily was grown through the upper part of the South.
Yeah.
See, Kentucky was like a split slaves. There was some in Kentucky. I think it was more of the. I don't know. What I was always told it was a lower half, but I don't know that specifically.
No, but there's stories actually I could show you of actually slaves in Elliott County where we lived. Yes, but so tobacco is primarily grown in places where there's a lot of limestone. That's why Kentucky is the horse capital of the world, because of the cave system that runs under the state. You have Mammoth Caves, you have Carter Caves. These are enormous systems that flush limestone through the rock. That's why it's called the Bluegrass state, because of the limestone. It gives the grass a little bit of a blue tint. Because it's so rich in minerals. Yeah, and that's why we're also the whiskey capital of the world, because they use the water from these springs to make. That's where the moonshining came from. But this is also found in Tennessee, Virginia, and the Carolinas, a little bit of upper Georgia and Alabama. And then you can find it here and there in other places. There's some in Ohio, West Virginia. But primarily, that's the kind of the area that where tobacco was mostly done. Now, there's a couple different ways of doing tobacco. One of them is called flue curing. That's what we seen down in South Carolina, North Carolina. That was the smoking tobacco. The tobacco that was raised around here, that's a chewing type of tobacco.
You said flue curing?
Yes, it's actually I've only heard talk about it because we just stripped our tobacco. But the way they do it, I believe, is actually was they would heat it and kind of like smoke it to get it to cure out, so that then it'd be taken to market and buyers would buy that tobacco for cigarettes. The tobacco we go around here was stripped and baled, and buyers around here that would buy it would be like Red Man, Male Pouch, chewing tobacco, snuff.
And do they do snuff with it too? I know.
Yes.
Okay.
What about the what was the good tobacco that's like Native American tobacco that's like supposed to be more healthy? What's that called? I forget. All the hippies smoke these cigarettes.
Oh, American Spirit.
Yeah, American Spirit. So is that?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Okay, I wasn't sure. All right, yeah, go on.
So anyway, so the tobacco used to be a way that people could make money, and then
kids could make money. Teenagers could go work on somebody's farm.
Yeah.
Really?
$10 an hour.
Oh yeah.
Oh heck yeah.
Hoeing out tobacco, stripping tobacco.
Kids climbing up in the barn to hang. You had to hang the tobacco for it to dry out, and so they would have to have people up in the barns and handing it up, and then pushing. You had to get on the thing to push. We didn't have one of those fancy things that you could.
Oh, Joe tromp it down?
Yeah, we tromped it down. Which there was a way that you could put like machines and they would push it together, but like we get too poor.
Oh, like compressing it.
Yeah,
you compress it into a bale.
So we had to jump on it as kids.
It sounds like Mexican swag weed. But it does sound a little bit like growing weed, and like that's how you could get kids busy. There's so much to do in the process.
That's what we need, is to legalize that, because these hills would be filled with marijuana plants. That's what would happen.
So I don't want to get too off topic, but weed is not legal in Kentucky yet.
It's
not even. We haven't even. Medicinal weed isn't even legal.
We should finish this tobacco rant, and then we'll come back to that later.
So with the tobacco, essentially they put all these stipulations and the government on how they wanted it grown. So all these farmers that grew tobacco a certain way, now there's all these specific ways on how to do it, and everybody was just like, forget it. They were making less on it too.
Eventually what happened was they did what was called the government buyout of it, and they gave you a buyout price because of the government regulations that was on it before. You could only have so much tobacco, so you would have to go to other farmers who wasn't farming their tobacco that year, that was given an allotted amount by the government, which was called a base, a tobacco base, and you would lease that off from them. So you would pay them like X amount for their lease. Well, then they done away with, all right, you can grow all the tobacco you want, but we won't put a government support price on it. So it wasn't a price that your tobacco couldn't sell any cheaper than that. And it was a decent price, where the government's like, nah, we're not going to do that anymore. You can grow all of it you want to, but they decided to give you
I didn't realize that. That's
$1.25 a pound.
So then no one was doing it anymore.
That reminds me of
people.
England back in the day. What did they had named of like fiefdoms and fiefs or something, like where you could only buy so much land and you had to buy it from the king. Oh man, I can't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Sounds like that.
Yeah, like that. It's exactly like
so
that.
people just it wasn't worth it anymore unless you were going to be a commercial tobacco farmer, big. Like
so it used to be a great mom and pop business that provided a lot of income for the local community, and then the government just came in, regulated the shit out of it, and took a lot of jobs away.
And then they just pretty much said F you, and even more jobs went away.
Yeah.
They said, we're not going to regulate it anymore. Y'all do whatever, but we're not going to give you a sport price on it no more. That's what they called it, their base price. And
hold on, I'm a little confused there. So everything was going well, then the government came in and started regulating it, and then they stopped regulating it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because within the price, they regulated it, and then after the regulation, they stopped paying what they were paying for it in the past. So then, though there was no regulations on it, you couldn't make any money on it anymore.
Because they put it was called a sport price. So they would say that your tobacco will sell for no less than $1.75 a pound. That was guaranteed sport price.
Okay.
Now, if it goes for $2.50 a pound, that's great, but it will not sell for less than that. So when they pulled out the last time and did the buyouts, now if they want to give you 50 cents a pound for your tobacco, there's nothing nobody can do. Okay. So you did have, at one point, you had a little bit of protection, but now you have nothing. So it pretty much was a way to give these big farmers.
The big farmers, they had a lot of money. The bigger equipment, all that stuff, they could still continue to raise X amount more than the little mom and pops. And so it's kind of almost like a Walmart situation where Walmart came into situation. Yeah.
They buy out all the small places, put them out of business.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Right.
So how did that play into the opioid epidemic?
So that happened. So there's just mass poverty after that. And
sorry, what year? Like what year was this whole tobacco thing went down?
Man, it was in the 90s, early 90s.
No, it would have been later 90s, and then kind of
we stopped early 90s. So.
Yeah, a lot of people were already stopped. But later 90s, early 2000s was probably the end of the government support price. And then you have to look what happened right after that. So we're right on the edge of the coal belt, you could say. The county that we live in don't have any deep mines, but it had strip mines, which is basically where they come cut the face of the hill off.
Clear cut is what they call it. They literally you'll go through. It actually looks kind of pretty, sadly, but it's awful to the land. They just go in, they cut big swaths of land out of the hillsides.
Like they cut the exterior off, like they just shave. Like it was my head, chunks, they just cut off the sides.
So you can see around the hillsides. It's actually kind of pretty because you can see all the different layers of the different types of rock,
like the limestone and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's awful for the land. But they'll go in and they call it clear cut, and they'll go in through and just cut the sides of hills out.
So there's two kinds of mining. There's a deep mining.
Yeah, there's actually there's surface mining, strip mining, and deep mining. So your surface mining will be on flat ground. Your strip mining will be a hillside that they'll basically just cut it off because there's a vein of coal running through there, and they'll take that vein of coal out and leave the hill.
Then the deep mining is where they're going down under the ground.
So the area that we live in, there was no deep coal, but there was a lot of strippable coal. Okay. So they come through. That happened in the early 80s, and there was a lot of people in Elliott County made a lot of money. A lot of money. We're talking millionaires were made.
Oh yeah, there's actually millionaires from that.
Yes,
like a handful of people that were involved,
and
their kids still have money because of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what also happened was during that same time, the war on coal began. And when the
For good reason.
listen at him, he's a politician here. The war on coal began, and where we had kind of got out of it, there was still a lot of industry that was tied to it. Trucking, repair, things of that nature that was part of the coal business. They all went belly up. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in our county and surrounding counties lost everything. They lost their trucking companies because they were hauling coal, or they were leasing their trucks out.
So you have these two industries basically that we did have where we could make money, and then they're both taken
They're
away.
gone. By 2008, they're gone.
There's no one to make money.
Coal and tobacco.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did I just miss that? Who took the coal away? How did the coal get taken away?
Well, there was a war on coal because of the climate crisis. So, like I said, for good reason. But a lot of people here that I just said that would be like, "Fuck you, dude. That's my family's money." And I get it. I totally understand because their family made money, but it's also killing our environment, destroying our planet. But
the problem with that is when they come through and they done this, they didn't help nobody. They just took their jobs are gone.
They just shut this down. So first of all these coal companies aren't paying these people shit. So they're already back getting talk about the opioid crisis. You talked about the Dope Sick movie where you see the miners, they're going down the mine and they're in all this pain, and so they end up on pain pills. Well, now then those people lose all their jobs, and then all that coal industry is taken out. And so not only are they now addicted to pain pills
and unemployed.
They're unemployed.
So it was one begat another, begat another, begat another.
Storm.
Now, hold on one second. So it was like the world trying to shift to other forms of power as opposed to coal to be more environmentally friendly, and in doing that, they put a lot of people out of jobs.
Politicians would always go with the slogan, "Coal keeps the lights on." That was the big thing. It was a big push for the Republicans because they could get behind that because for one, they could make money off of it, so they didn't care. They didn't give a fuck about the environment. So they would run on that stance: coal keeps the lights on, coal keeps the lights on. And I get the reason why that they were doing that, because all these people got behind it because they were losing their jobs. So it was like they were using this
instead of coming in. What they should have done and made this a long-term plan that, okay, we're going to phase out coal, but we're going to train up a generation or we can replace these things with gas drilling, with solar, with wind,
solar power.
All these other forms that they could have. These strip mines are perfect.
Marijuana, big time, huge.
Perfect.
Mushrooms, man.
For windmills.
Yeah, mushrooms.
For solar panel farms, they're perfect.
Yeah,
but they just left
for all this stuff.
They just left it.
No, they just fucking left people.
The politicians, basically, right?
Yes, and I blame everybody. Democrats, Republicans.
That'd be a great T-shirt. I blame everybody.
I blame you. I do. And it's sad because Eastern Kentucky, Western West Virginia, Southeastern Virginia, East Tennessee,
Southern Ohio,
even into Pennsylvania had a lot of coal. Basically, a big FU to you guys, and do the best you can. Drag yourselves out now that we took every industry you can. Here comes the Sacklers. Oh, these people are in pain.
Yeah.
Oh, we know how to fix that. Here's this new medicine. Let's
help. Not addicting. Like they literally had the fucking. Was it the D? Was it what was it? Was it the DA? What DEA was the one that wrote the thing that basically was the first time they'd ever gotten a backing from some organization. Was it DEA or who? No, was it DEA?
CDC.
Yeah, I think
FDA.
The first time
the FDA.
FDA. First time they'd ever gotten like an acknowledgement like this. We're behind this. This is not addicting.
Well, on that show, Dope Sick. Oh, you can go on. It was crazy. All the lies the Sackler family created and distributed.
But here's the thing. That son of a bitch is still walking around.
Yeah, I know.
He killed millions of people. He is still killing millions of people.
He's like a Hitler. He's like a modern, secretive Hitler.
Yeah.
And if the way that the movie portrays him as he actually is, he has zero conscience. Zero.
Didn't he start making methadone? Anything. They didn't cover it in the show, but didn't they also produce methadone as well?
Oop, 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 oop. Uh-oh.
All
Did I
good.
lose you?
No problem. No, you're still here.
Click right
Yeah.
there. Right there.
Don't worry. If anything like that happens, we can chop it out, so it's not a big deal.
Okay, good. My hand is
I don't know. He very well could have probably seen another way to make money. That's you know,
That'd be, yeah.
but you know, he's still walking around. Yeah, he's had to pay out a bunch of money, but they got it. They're covered with insurance. They're covered with everything else. And now, you know,
and the money that's behind them, you can't be touched. That's what I want to get to too about the prison system I was in. The majority of the people that were in there the longest were poor, and the people that had any money, I would do personal situations that I can't share. Personal people that I knew that did things, and they had money behind them. They could hire a good lawyer, and they'd be in and out. I know people that had sex abuse charges that were literally on the registry, that had people with enough money to get in there and get it out, get the thing removed.
That's fucked.
And they're
man.
walking around.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that it's that they're waging war on they're waging war on drugs, and their war on drugs is literally putting poor people away, and it's become a modern, and how much money they get those facilities receive for each head that they get paid so much money. Prison system is a huge money racket on top.
Is
of
it? Is it really?
Oh yeah, they make so much. That's the reason why they're all in prison, because the government sends all this money to keep people in prison. So I knew, well, from what I understand, I'll say it like that. From what I understand, they would hold on to people a little bit longer because there's money to be made. We always had to make sure there was a bed filled. You know, I can't say that was the only reason, but it sure as hell looked a lot like that to me, was that the beds always had to be filled because they were going to lose money if the beds weren't filled.
Well,
it was always a big issue.
They have some prisons, right? Like immigrant prisons where they're actually in there basically doing slave labor, right?
Well, yeah, I'm sure, but we don't really have any of that.
We don't have it here, but I'm sure that's happening.
But one thing that got a huge bump through all this, and Jonathan worked in state prisons.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got three different types of prison. You got state, you got federal, and then you have private. That can either be state or federal.
Which they did away with those in Kentucky, but at one time there was private prisons, which was even worse.
Those are 100 times worse than any prison. You never want to go to a private prison.
For profit. That's what I was saying. So what I was talking about was a for-profit prison.
Them, or the federal government pays them to have you.
Yeah.
So how much they can screw you over, less food, less amenities, less everything, they're going to do, because
and that's a lot of times where your big prison riots would happen, would be in places like that, where they were treating those individuals like
Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch Orange is the New Black?
I didn't watch it, but so you're saying, because I thought us having so many people in prison, I'm pretty sure we have more people in prison than we do in college in the U.S. But I thought that cost the taxpayers money. But you're saying the government or the prisons actually make money. Like the more people they have in prison, the more money they make.
The more money the prison can make, yes.
But the more money the taxpayers lose, right?
The more money the taxpayers lose, yes, because they're using our money that we're paying into taxes. You know, our education system in Sandy Hook, they don't spend any money on our education system. Our education system is struggling. They're struggling to pay teachers. But yet we're building a new fucking prison, like we're building a bigger fucking prison, and they can't even pay teachers.
Right.
And we got some great
education is what's going to keep people out of prison.
Exactly. Right. And here's the thing, we got teachers having to take money out of their own pockets to buy
pencils and stuff for kids because their parents can't afford them, and so they're barely getting paid anything, and then they're having to pay for stuff for the kids to use at school.
When you get down to the bottom dollar and then past the nut.
All right. I seem to have lost these gentlemen, but I reckon they'll come back very shortly. I reckon they will. So, while they're gone, the opioid epidemic is pretty crazy, huh? All the history behind it, just the process of creating the...
Oh, we're back.
Oh, God, I hope I didn't lose everything that we had before that.
Oh, shit.
I reckon I did not. I'm in high hopes and optimism.
Okay.
I think the recording might have paused on its own and then restarted on its own. Technology is pretty
Okay.
amazing. Let's just pray for the best. Keep going.
So yeah, I don't.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, and I don't know how you change it. I don't know how we get the government behind it changing. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
We don't claim to have the answers.
You said something about hope when we talked previously, right?
There is hope. I mentioned this to you before, and this is, and it's good to leave on some hope. And that is, I have noticed, my son is actually in the back listening to a lot of this. He can even vouch.
He ain't listening to nothing right now.
He's got his headphones in.
I could listen to Tupac.
He's
For sure.
no Con.
I love Tupac.
I love Tupac. He's a huge Kanye fan.
How old is he?
He'll be 14 on November.
Nice.
I can't keep up with their ages. He'll be 14 November. But what was I saying? Shit.
Good note.
Hope.
So the one thing that I've noticed in raising kids, we moved away for many years, and then we ended up back in Eastern Kentucky about 4 years ago. My dad passed away, and one thing that I saw a lot of, which is sad, was that a lot of these kids that were raised with parents that are suffering an addiction, was that a lot of times the grandparents were the ones that raised the kids, and most of the kids that my kids go to school with, their parents aren't in their life, or they have one parent that's in their life, but predominantly it's grandparents. So either predominantly it's like one of the individuals has passed away. I don't know how often my kid will say, yeah, their mom is gone, or yeah, so
And it's all opiate related.
A lot of it.
Wow.
And so, but the hope in that is that I don't hear so much about the pills and the heroin and the meth and stuff in the schools. There was a period of time that they were in the school. They were snorting pills off the classroom tables,
Oh
but
my!
I did.
Dude, did. So I missed all that. You're a little younger than me, but these kids don't seem to be as interested in doing drugs.
That's fantastic.
They know what their parents.
And the numbers are starting to play out. I actually looked at a study. It's been about a year ago at kids, in the high school age, that the decline was around 23%. I think is what I've seen in that particular study. I'm sure there's
that's huge. That's pretty good. That's pretty...
of what we're seeing from previous years in numbers. So it's on a decline, and I just pray to God that it stays that way and keeps going down, because these kids don't realize what they're getting into. They don't realize the pain, and you do, I do. We've been there. We've been dope sick. We've not known our names. We've not woke up in beds.
OD'd.
We've done it all. And I don't think me or you, either one, would look back and go, man, that was worth it. That was a good time, because for what good time I had, the hell that it caused in my life, well, not even close.
And I know
I can't even.
I agree. And I know we're trying to end on a positive note, but when me and you talked previously, you told me they made a new kind of fentanyl, right?
Yeah, there's carfentanil, which is, do you know a little bit more about carfentanil? I know it's just incredibly stronger than fentanyl. I don't know.
It's incredibly strong, and it's what we're seeing.
Fentanyl is like a few little drops of powder equals to like, a chunk of heroin, but this stuff is even stronger than
100
that.
times stronger than that. What I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, so like.
Well, what the problems that we see?
They keep putting it. They put it in. They cut it so they can sell this stuff because it's so much stronger. They can put it in like baby powder. I don't know what it is, whatever.
No, what they're doing is they're actually mixing it into heroin.
Okay.
So they can take a really super duper low grade heroin and cut it with this, and it becomes a very, very good heroin.
But the problem is
too good, right?
Yeah.
Way too good.
I'm so glad I dipped before the fentanyl hit, and thank God that I did.
Well, the problem with this stuff is it's so potent. I've talked to EMTs, said we hit them 3 or 4 times with Narcan. We
can't even get them out.
Holy shit! So with heroin, you can hit them one time with Narcan and they're out, but with the what's it called again?
If they take a hot enough shot,
fentanyl and carfentanil.
Yeah.
Fentanyl,
So,
car fentanyl.
and here's the thing. I'm hearing about it showing up in Coke. I'm
Yeah,
hearing about it showing up in
They're finding it in NBA.
MDMA.
Joe Rogan said that one of his buddies, they went out to score some coke, but the coke was cut with fentanyl and they died instantly. I was like, that is not a good business model, man. You need repeat customers. That's a good business model.
Then you wonder who the fuck is. So then you wonder who the fuck is doing that. Is that rival dealers trying to screw up somebody's?
It makes no sense. Why would you give your customer a thing that's going to kill them? It makes no sense for money.
Or you just don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're dealing with something that you have no idea. You're not a chemist. You're a dope slinger.
Yeah.
Okay,
Obviously, if you were a chemist, you would have a heck of a job making buku money and not have to worry about going to prison for 20 years.
Yeah.
They've been selling.
That's why, there was a time around here, we heard about it all the time, when meth really got hot. Now most of it's been piped in, so we don't hear about it as much. There's people getting blowed up around here left and right.
Yeah.
They thought they could cook meth.
They know what they were doing. They blow their trailer.
Oh, I had a buddy a long time ago that was cooking meth in a hotel, caught the fucking hotel on fire and dipped out. Yeah. Crazy stories like that movie Spun.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So you guys have had a 23% reduction in what specifically? Like opiate use among children?
Drug use. It was drug use. I don't think it was opiate specific, but on the study. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it was drug use.
Legalization.
That was about a year ago, probably. I looked at that.
Yeah. Legalization is the way to go, though, because then, like, I remember I went to New York a long time ago, and they had harm reduction centers. They'll test your drugs for you. They'll tell you what's in it. They'll give you clean needles, and it's like, I think they do that in Spain.
Listen to this. In the state of Kentucky, it's illegal.
This is true.
Illegal to have a test kit.
You can't buy a test kit for your drugs in the state of Kentucky. This is a true story.
To see if it has carfentanil or fentanyl in it.
You can't buy one of those. It's
the government.
But you can go get prescribed cotton.
But you can go get Oxycontin. Yeah, you can get prescribed Oxycontin.
Makes no sense. What is the government's incentive behind that? Population control? That would make sense.
That one, it just was mind blowing because I was just assuming that would just be something you could buy at a head shop.
Yeah.
I have worked with individuals in. Gosh, I don't want to put anybody out there. Individuals that work in places where they should be helping to revive individuals that are over ODing and have the attitude of. I don't know why we have to do this. Why do they get this stuff for free? Why can't we get, and go into the whole thing about why can't you get, diabetic medications and things like that for free, and making a whole big deal. And even to the point of like, I don't even know why we have to do this. Let's let them die. Well, it's just another dope addict. Like that's the attitude too that I've seen as well with the idea of even having Narcan available.
Yeah.
What you said.
Well, I think one of the best hopes we have for the future would be the legalization of weed and mushrooms, man, because they're mushrooms really.
You touched a second there at the very beginning, and I've heard a little bit about it. Ibogaine.
Yeah.
That basically you trip for about 24 hours. You have a trip sitter with you, and when you come out of your trip, it completely blasts out everything, and you're sober, you're not sick. It is illegal in the United States to have ibogaine, but it's legal in Canada. And I've heard that it works very well for that part of it, but the mental part of it, of getting through things like learn how to cope, how to deal with sobriety. That's the problem why a lot of people go back and use it. But to get over that initial withdrawal and stuff, I've heard it's phenomenal. Tell me a little bit about that.
It was a 3-day.
I've never got to hear a firsthand story.
It was a 3-day trip, man. It was a 3-day fucking trip. It was not fun. There was nothing fun about it. I had a shaman, and I had to eat all this tree bark that basically tastes like tree bark marinated in battery acid, and it's bad. And I eat it, and I'm gonna make a long story short to the best of my ability, but all of a sudden, like, it kicks in after a couple hours, and I'm in this swamp right? And there's these witches that look like Medusa with snakes coming out of their heads, and they're doing somersaults at me, and I'm just bouncing up and down and getting so nauseous. Because when you're on the ibogaine, if you do this, it feels like you just did this. Boom, 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 boom. So you don't want to move, because even the most subtle movement, it's like boom, 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 boom. So you just don't want to move. And so I'm in the swamp with Medusa snakes doing somersaults at me, and I'm just motion sick. And then I'm gone. I'm standing in a house, and I'm like, that's weird. What's going on? And then I see one of the Medusa witches come around the corner, and I'm like, oh, she wants to eat me. I turn around and start running up these stairs, and I just run up like 5 flights of stairs, and then I get to a wall, and I'm like, oh, this is it. So I turn around and I wait for the Medusa witch to come, and then my body starts like vibrating, and then my body explodes, and I turn into this green beam of energy, just like all the way up and down, and then I beam up into the heavens. And then, like, I'm in the sky, and I look over, and there's another one, but it's got, like, a circle and legs coming out like a throne, and it just starts, like, telling me my jobs and my responsibilities on the earth and everything I need to do, and I come back out of it, and then this was after, like, 2 days, start sobering up. I go upstairs, my buddy makes me some food, rice, meat, and some sauce, and I'm looking at it. I don't know if you've taken psychedelics before, but sometimes your vision gets staticky. He gives it to me, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I just start pouring it on his carpet. And he starts laughing. He starts laughing so hard, he's like, I think you need to go back in the basement. Because I had done the whole trip in the basement. Sends me back downstairs for a day. And then I come back out. And yeah, the withdrawal, gone immediately. Which usually...
So the government's excuses for that, to use it in the United States, true story, is that the actual medicine that they would extract to have a legitimate medicine, the patent ran up on it. So they can't put it in a name brand form, so nobody can profit off from it.
This is the thing. It's the business model. It's not a good business model. A one-time cure is not lucrative. Now, methadone is the best business model in the world. I know people that will stay on it till they die. Can you think of a better business model?
Every single day of your life.
Yeah.
You get to get high off the government every day.
Yeah.
You can get Medicaid. Your Medicaid will pay for it.
Yeah. Yes. Ibogaine's not a good business model, man.
So, but again,
it took care. It took care of my withdrawal, but it didn't solve my demons. And actually, I went right back to using. And then I learned the most important lesson in getting clean, which is climate change. And you have to get away from all your previous triggers, because you don't even really know it, but like your door handle is a trigger sometimes. Stoplight at that intersection is a trigger. And you have all these triggers everywhere. And so I went to Florida, ironically enough, to study recording arts. It had nothing to do with pills. And I started studying music, and I finally got clean because I escaped all my triggers, you know? And I got right.
Talking about triggers, this is going to probably make you laugh. The smell of bleach is a trigger for me this very day. And the reason why was, I didn't have a good supply of needles. So I would bleach my needles.
I never did that.
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
I can smell bleach, and it is a instant trigger.
That's quick. Crazy. That's crazy. When I watched that show Dope Sick, and they were like, I think they were sucking on the pills to clean the coating off. I was like, I could like taste it in my mouth because I've done it so many times.
For a long time, my wife loved the show. Remember Intervention?
For celebrities?
No, the TV show. There's the regular Intervention. Came on, I think A&E maybe.
I don't know if I watched it or not.
Really super popular. Yeah, super popular. And it would be a new addict every
types of addictions. That basically what the show was about.
No, it was all drugs and alcohol.
Different types of substances.
I couldn't watch it for probably 3 or 4 years after I got clean.
I bet, dude. I bet you really gotta.
People acted and how they felt, and watching them nod out and all that stuff. That was me.
Yeah.
And I was watching me. I would cry. And I would I can't do this.
I still got it in me, and some things will still make me sick to my stomach. And unfortunately, several years back, I was like, I hate Taiwan, and I went to Vietnam. And in Vietnam and Cambodia, this is what you do. I'm sorry, listeners, I'm not trying to promote this, but you just walk up to the pharmacy and say, "Hey, I want 5 perk 30s." They're like, "Okay, here you go," and you just buy them like that.
Wow.
And in Cambodia, you can like be like, "I want 5 80 milligram OxyContin and a handful of Xanax." It's like, "Okay, here you go." You just buy it. You just buy it on the street. And so I relapsed briefly in Vietnam, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Man, I got to go back to Taiwan," because that's the best thing about Taiwan. We don't have meth. We don't have coke. We don't have heroin. We don't have those
Wow.
things, and we don't have crack. And when I grew up in Findlay, which is like a baby Detroit, man, I was smoking crack in high school. I was smoking meth in high school. I was shooting oxys in high school because it was just everywhere. And so Taiwan has been my. That's another good way to end this podcast is thank you, Taiwan, because you have given me enough sobriety to thrive. You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Brother, you stay in Taiwan and keep keeping it real over there.
Yeah.
Luckily, you know, I'm able to survive out here and it's straight. And I always give credit to God because I think that it was God that, above all things, that done this for me. So, you know, I give Christ all the glory for that. But as you know, over there and here both, it's a walk every day. We will never be the same. Don't
Yeah.
you know?
All you can do is try to take
we know that.
Yeah, you got to take
We
your experience.
know that.
You got to take your experience and figure out a way to use that to your advantage to inspire other people. And that's really what I'm doing with this podcast. And I think that's what you guys are doing with your music is you're trying to take all that pain and turn it into a teacher to inspire people to take a different route in life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sure. And too, hey, if they ever need some bluegrass from Appalachia over in Taiwan, hey, look us up.
So you know, hey, I know some guys. I know some guys.
Do you guys have enough time? Because I still want to do a second podcast with you about the music. Do you have enough time for that?
Not right now, but we could do it a different time. Yeah.
A different time. Well, if there's anything, because I know that let's just go ahead and do it now. You got an album coming out soon, right?
We have it. We actually have. We can't tell you about the album yet.
All right.
We're not obliged to say, but I can tell you about the song that's coming out.
Tell me about
first studio.
Just tell me about your music. Tell me about your band. Tell me everything so that listeners can hear what this shit's all about. Because so far, all they know is, wow, these guys are from Kentucky and there's a huge opiate problem. So let's hear the positive side, the music side.
All right. So the music side is I started this band last year. I'm a rock musician, to be honest. That's what I did before. That's
like
what
Nirvana. Like Nirvana.
Yeah, we actually began to get into like more country, kind of country rock, Americana. So like Wilco, Ryan Adams.
Question.
Like
Do you like Yellow Wolf?
I've never heard Yellow Wolf.
I have heard of Yellow Wolf.
He's a hillbilly rapper. I fucking love him.
It's a little different.
What's that hip hop bluegrass band?
Oh, Gangster Grass.
Gangster Grass. Check out Gangster Grass.
I think I might have heard of him a long time ago, but yeah.
Remember the TV show Justified? Did you ever see Justified?
They made the theme song for Justified, and I love Justified. You know why I love Justified? Because of the rich accents, man. The culture of that show is just beautiful. Boyd Crowder, he always says, always remember your ABCs. Always be cool.
That's right. So anyway, I ended up with a bunch of bluegrass musicians, long story short, and our music is about growing up in eastern Kentucky, specifically Appalachia, the drug crisis that we grew up in, the poverty that's rampant, and also just a lot of music that was being made called country. Had nothing to do with country. You're talking about these kids with a lot of money driving these big jacked up trucks that that were initially made to work out in fields and so forth, and they were just driving around and acting cool and going to Cabela's and that whole fucking country.
Cabela's is a hunting store. I'm sure some of our listeners would not know that.
I love Cabela's Bass Pro Shop. I love you.
I've been
great,
there. It's
we'll take a sponsorship anytime.
What can you buy? It's like a hunting store, kind of, right?
Oh, they got everything: clothes, fishing equipment, hunting stuff, bow and arrow type guns. I mean, it's anything outdoorsy.
I don't want to get off topic, but one of my new life goals is I want to learn how to hunt. It's pretty off topic, but
I've never hunted in my life, but I would like to hunt too. So you learn.
I just think if we eat meat, we should know the process and we should experience the process.
We started raising chickens. Speaking of which, and about 2 weeks ago, I killed my first chicken. It was very hard. The reason I did it, I was literally like saying, "I'm like, honey, we got to do this because if we're gonna eat meat, we need to understand that." Like Joe Rogan, like when he brought that up in his podcast, I'm like, he's right.
He is right.
He's really right.
Well, did you listen to the podcast with Cameron Haynes and Steve Ranella?
What do they talk about? I don't remember.
They're both bow hunters. They're elite bow hunters. And I listened to those podcasts by accident, and I was like, man, these hunters seem to care more about animal conservation than vegans and vegetarians.
I think I did too. Absolutely.
True sportsman. My grandfather was a avid hunter, and every year on Thanksgiving and Christmas Day, me and him went hunting.
Really?
Every year.
So you've been hunting a lot. Wow.
Yeah, and I haven't hunted in years. He got killed in a car wreck, and he was the only person I ever hunted with my entire life, and I've never been able to go back. He was my hunting partner, and it's just not the same. But anyway, he would always teach me gun safety and things like so. Quail live in groups, and they're called coveys. So when your dog points quail, and they come up, and they're in this big covey, a lot of hunters will go and they'll hunt every one of those birds down and kill them. Every single one of them. He said, son, if you kill every one of those birds, they won't be birds next year. He said, you take 2 or 3 out of that covey, you go find another covey someplace else. Let them get back together, do their thing so that they'll have more offspring. That way we know to come back next year. We got more.
Well, Rogan said when they go hunting like moose or caribou or whatever it is, they only shoot the old ones, right?
Yeah, a lot of people. I've not got to do that. But yes, they are truly more sportsman-like than a lot of so-called environmentalists and stuff.
That is the Native American idea, which is that the land, the God, the Great Spirit gives us this, and that you honor its life, that it's given its life so that you can have life, and it's a totally different process than the way that we've grown up in American culture and eating cheeseburgers and all that, and not realizing like these animals and a lot of these meals they suffered, they went through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And so Steve, it was a good experience. As traumatic as it was to kill my chicken.
Do you have to break the neck first? Is that the first thing you do?
And slice its throat. I probably shouldn't say this, but the knife was not needed to be. It was awful. I was like, this is awful.
When I stayed on the Navajo Indian reservation, when I went there, I was vegetarian, and then we get there and the Amah's there, and we have this goat, and I remember riding around in the back of this truck bed with I get in, I didn't know the goat was there, and I get in and I see the goat there, and I'm like, oh shit, like we're gonna be killing this goat tonight, and so I'm like talking to the goat, and I'm like, man, I'm really sorry, but like thank you.
I'd be like, I love you, goat.
And then later that day, right, we all get together, and the old grandma lady, she's holding the goat, and she looks at me, she's like, come here. I'm like, what? She's like, come here. I'm like, what? She's like, come here. And she just slices the goat's throat, and I think I was like holding it while the blood's draining out. And then we went through the whole process, and we wrapped the head in foil, put it in the fire, and then we're skinning the goat, we're cutting it all out, and then eventually we cook it, right? We start eating it, and I'm trying to eat it, and I look down and I see blood in my fingernails, and I start like gagging, and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't. There's blood in my. I can't do this, man. I can't eat it. And my professor was there with me. He's like, just go bury it, and don't let them see you do it, but just bury it if you can't eat it. So I did.
Right. It's hard. But but we need. I think everybody that eats meat needs to have an experience something like that so that they understand.
I totally agree. Yeah.
I've killed deer and turkey and quail and grouse and.
I wish that could be a part of my life, man. Out here in Taiwan, if I wanted to hunt, what I would do is I would get with a group of Aboriginals, and then we'd go hunt some wild boar. That's what they hunt out here.
Those bitches are mean. They'll kill you.
Right? If you don't kill them, they're going to kill you.
Yeah. I wouldn't feel near as bad about it, but I'm sorry. I'm kind of a baby about it now. I haven't done it in a while. Back to the music.
Yeah.
Trying to do is just make a statement to let people know who we are. We're, a lot of people are, that's not really bluegrass. We never said we was.
That. We're not.
That just happened a few minutes ago.
Well, who are you?
We are not.
We're Moonlight Mile.
Moonlight Mile. We are our own thing. We aren't trying to be bluegrass. We're not trying to be rock and roll. We're just trying to try to do our own thing and be who we are.
Well, maybe you just answered that question, but what makes you different? What makes you unique, and what makes you stand out apart from the other stuff?
Bluegrass is a very traditional style of music, and a lot of the bluegrass bands you hear today are basically in covers of old songs from the 50s. And if they aren't doing covers of old songs of the 50s, they're doing modern versions that sound a lot like those old songs from the 50s, and they're talking about subject matter that's like, oh, going down to meet my girl, or over on the mountain, or it's just topics that really aren't any way. I mean,
we're trying to bring it into a lot of what's happening.
What's
today.
going on now? What's happening around us right now? What are the things that our culture is going through? And specifically right now, we've been singing a lot about Appalachian where we growing up, but that doesn't mean that as we write more music that we won't branch outside of just what's happening in Appalachia. But we want to write about music that's relevant. We mentioned Tyler Childers at the beginning of this podcast.
Awesome. Shout out Tyler Childers.
Yes, very relevant to what we all experienced in Eastern Kentucky and in that area, and even where you came from. It's relevant. Music needs to be relevant, and it seems like it's becoming more washed.
I was at the beach yesterday. I was at the beach yesterday, and this girl kept saying, "What's your podcast about?" And I'm like, I don't know. We talk about serial killers. We talk about health. We talk about history. We talk about philosophy and psychology, and she kept asking me and asking me and asking me, and I'm like, well, we did a podcast recently about purpose and values, and I was like, you know what my podcast is about? My podcast is about truth. That's really what it is. When we pick a topic, we dive in to find the truth in it, or when we talk about something like fear, we're trying to find the truth in ourselves, me and Paddy, what is our truth about our relationship with fear? And really, I think that's what this podcast is it's an exploration trying to discover truth. And it sounds like by you guys trying to focus on the present day, the present day reality, you're doing the exact same thing. You're trying to spread the truth.
We don't have a problem being billed as bluegrass because essentially we kind of are. But don't put us in the box that's who we are. We're so much more than just that. We're the people that just want to, like you said, we're just trying to tell the truth. We're trying to tell stories in our songs that I've experienced, that Jonathan's experienced, that you've experienced, that everyday listeners have experienced, and that's where we get our feedback from our listeners. We've had people. Jonathan had a guy come up. We did a show in Mount Sterling, Kentucky. Guy come up crying. His son had passed away of a drug overdose. He said, "You don't realize how much your music really meant to me." He said, I hardly go out anymore. I hadn't been out in a long time. Me and my wife went out today, and said I got drunk for the first time in a very long time and just had a good time. And he's like, your music really, really helped me. He said, I think it was 3 years. Was it 3 years from that? I don't.
It was actually quite. I want to say a little ways that the son had passed, and he was still struggling. And
that's crazy.
That's
when you're serving your purpose. Like sometimes somebody will call me and be like, dude, you talked about relationships, or you talked about addiction or whatever, and like it really struck a note with me, and I'm like, nah, I know I'm serving my purpose. If I'm affecting people, I'm serving my purpose.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, hell yeah. It seems like we went full circle. And so you can't really talk about the album, but you guys are playing bluegrass festivals every weekend, right? You're out there playing all the time.
Shows and bluegrass festivals, and hopefully that we'll be able to talk about really soon. We're just kind of bound by a little bit of a contract right now.
Cool.
They release some things, but the things that are getting ready to come out it should really, really help us.
On the 21st, talking about 21st.
That's 20. So this song that you're going to hear at the end of this podcast, I'm going to make sure you get to play for your listeners. It's called Honey. It's released on September 21st. You can hear it on Spotify, Apple Music, any place where there's a way that you can stream songs. That'll be our first studio song, and it's going to be released on September the 21st. So please listen to it.
Dope. And today is September 11th. How crazy is that?
Yeah,
We're recording this podcast on September 11th, man. That's so wild, huh? So
I didn't even realize it.
yeah, I kind of saw it coming. I was like, well, September 11th is coming, but I didn't realize we were going to be doing this podcast.
It's a 10th for us. It's a 10th for us. That's why
I'm in the future. I'm in the future, baby.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm so happy you guys came on. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome. This was a lot of fun, and I'm jealous I'm not there to go see Tyler Childers. Childers or Childers? Shit. I lost you. Oh, I think you're back.
You're back.
Got you back. Oh, you're muted. So turn your yep, good.
Hold on. All right.
So is it Childers or Childers?
Childers.
Tyler Childers. He's awesome, man. He's awesome.
That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, he is great. We're huge fans, and our music is, definitely inspired some by what he did and what he's been doing. What music he's been coming out with, for sure.
Sweet. Well, that seems like a great place to tie this podcast up. Thank you, guys. That was a super lot of fun. That was a lot of information. I think a lot of people don't know that, and it'll be very inspiring and enlightening. So
thank you for having us on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, dude. Of course. And so the song that we'll be playing at the end of this podcast is, what's the name of it?
Honey. It's just like Honey. Honey.
And what's the name of your band?
I want to make sure they can understand what I'm saying, because the accent sometimes makes it difficult.
Well, it's cool because Paddy's got a pretty strong Irish accent, and I was just told yesterday that my Midwestern accent has been getting stronger, and I'm like, really? I didn't notice that. And they're like, yeah, it didn't used to be this strong, and I'm like, I think it's because we tend to exaggerate things on the podcast, and then we accidentally start actually using them in our day-to-day life.
Oh, that's great. And Moonlight Mile is the name of the band. Moonlight Mile. I always have to enunciate that, because they're like, what? They call us what? Midnight Mile.
Yeah, if you said like Moonlight Mile, huh? Moonlight Mile.
Exactly. That one word? Yeah. What are you saying?
So are you guys on Spotify and YouTube right now?
Yeah, we are.
Spotify, YouTube.
You check us out on Facebook. It's Moonlight Mile. Instagram, it's Moonlight Mile KY.
No. On Facebook, it's Moonlight Mile KY. On Instagram, it's Moonlight Mile Band. You'll find us on there.
Yeah, just put in Moonlight.
And we're on TikTok too.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I haven't done the TikTok for the podcast because I heard all this stuff about China and how they can, like, if you have TikTok, they can just like take all your information. So I'm a little leery about it.
I heard that too. But I will say this about TikTok. They called me and Dewey here the Tenacious D of Bluegrass.
Oh,
so,
I can't think of a better compliment.
Jack Black and Kyle Gass right here.
You do, yeah. You guys do kind of have that look going, for sure. That's one of the greatest bands of all time, man. Tenacious D.
That's right.
Awesome.
That's right. Dewey does a mean cock push-up too.
Yeah, sure.
Oh my. Hell yeah. All right,
man.
Gentlemen. Well, I will let you get back to your day. Go enjoy Tyler Childers tonight. And we got your song Honey coming on right now. So take care. We'll try to do this again soon, okay, guys?
Sounds good, man. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Awesome. Beautiful. I'll see you.
Bye.
Honey, have you ever thought about running away? Leave this town for good and never see it again. Honey, if we keep this up, we're bound to die. I got $20 to my name, girl, I think I get high. For years I tried to slow me down, but I ain't near as patient now. They ain't gonna win this fight tonight. Girl, I'm gonna be alright, 'cause honey, gonna chase these dreams. I got this full tank of gasoline. Honey, you know I act so tough, but I ain't ever been good enough. And until Appalachia falls in the sea, honey, they ain't gonna stop me, no. Honey, when you tell me the truth, you believe in me. I've had much more stolen than I've really ever received. Seems like every time I think it might be alright, yeah, I find myself out there shaking in the dark, cold night. Yeah, for years they tried to slow me down, but I ain't near as patient now. They ain't gonna win this fight tonight. Girl, I'm gonna be alright, 'cause honey, gonna chase these dreams. I got this full tank of gasoline. Honey, you know I act so tough, but I ain't never been good enough. And until Appalachia falls in the sea, honey, they ain't gonna stop me. Yeah, for years they tried to slow me down, but I ain't near as patient now. They ain't gonna win this fight tonight. Girl, I'm gonna be alright, 'cause honey, gonna chase these dreams. I got this full tank of gasoline. Honey, you know I act so tough, but I ain't never been good enough. And until Appalachia falls in the sea, honey, they ain't gonna stop me, no.